Hello, Carroll County. Welcome to the Carroll County 4-H and FFA Fair podcast, where we're preparing for the 2025 fair by sharing a little bit about what the fair is, how it works, and how you can be a part. My name is Sam Chamelin, and I am a 4-H'er, parent, volunteer, and fair superintendent. And over the course of 4 different podcasts, we're going to be meeting with some very special guests to share their experience of the fair and get you ready for this year. Fairs are a uniquely American experience, but Carroll County is a unique experience all its own. If you've ever been to the Carroll County Fair, perhaps you've sensed an air about the place. Obviously, when you come, the 4-H and FFA members are buzzing around, they're working hard, their families are doing a lot. But also, older generations come, but they aren't just there to watch their grandkid do their thing. They seem invested and interested in a different way. Little kids will come as well, but they're not just watching or wanting ice cream. They're eager to grow up so that they can participate as well. There truly is something about the fair that everyone feels a part. And you get the sense that the Carroll County Fair means more than just a youth showcase or a community event. There's something that connects the generations about it. And I wanted to bring on someone who's been a part of that something special for a very long time. He's no stranger to many of us, and he's been a leader, mentor, and friend to me for as long as I can remember. And I'm very glad to welcome to the podcast, Mr. Bob Shirley. Bob, thank you so much for coming on and having a conversation with me.
Oh, Sam, I'm really excited about the fact that we can talk a little bit about 4-H and the fair and what it does for people.
Well, even in just preparing for this, I've learned more about the fair than I even knew before I came in, so I'm looking forward to learning myself. But let's start where I want to start. What is your favorite part of the Carroll County Fair?
Oh, I think people. And people, and you already said this, of all generations. The 4-H'ers, and what they learn and life skills that they gather from doing their projects, which, of course, the animals are the most exciting ones that everybody looks at, but there's an awful lot of other 4-H projects that the young people take part in and build life skills. And, of course, then the generation of their parents, many of whom, just like you, Sam, are volunteers that want to see the 4-H program continue to bring on the kind of good happenings to their generation that they're raising. And then, of course, then you start to get back to my generation. Aren't too many people around still of my generation, but I mean, yes, and a lot of memories. And as we look at so many of our families that are involved in 4-H, we can go back and several generations. That we're talking about grandparents being in 4-H, in some cases even great-grandparents being in 4-H, which those are the things that I'm looking for people. And, of course, you mentioned a little bit, the kids that aren't quite old enough to be 4-H'ers, they're looking at those kids and saying, I want to be just excited. Like them.
So excited. Yes. And it doesn't matter what part of the fair you're in. You can be in the red building where the crafts are, or down at the horse ring, or at the livestock ring, and the kids are like, "You mean I can do this?" And that wide-eyed look in a young kid's eyes is just the best part of fair for me.
Well, but it's very true that one of the real things that we do is inspire those young people, regardless of whether we're talking about 4-year-olds or 14-year-olds, to grow, mature, and learn.
Absolutely. Well, I will say it because I'm not sure that you would, that in so many ways you have become the voice and the personality of the Carroll County Fair. My wife and I both grew up in 4-H, you know that, and there's very few stories that we can tell that at some point don't involve Mr. Bob as part of that. And your 4-H and your history with 4-H, not just at the fair, but your own personal history with 4-H goes back a very long ways. And so can you share a little bit about your background in agriculture in Carroll County and 4-H and the fair?
I did grow up on a farm in Reisterstown, and we moved to Carroll County when I was in college. So my 4-H experiences were in a 4-H club in Baltimore County, but the very first project I ever showed was a Clydesdale colt foal at the Maryland State Fair in 1946.
So you really have been around Clydesdales forever.
Well, my father was a Clydesdale breeder. Later that year, in November, I believe, I showed an Angus steer at the Baltimore Livestock Show, which of course isn't anymore.
Yeah.
And it was held at the Baltimore Union Stockyards.
Oh, no way.
Which isn't anymore.
Also doesn't exist anymore.
And there was no show ring. We showed on a parking lot. And my Angus steer placed 48th out of 73 steers, and the American Angus Association gave $2.50 to everybody in the top 50. I made it.
You made it. I was going to say, Mr. Bob, that's not that great, but you made it.
Yes.
You made top 50.
Yes.
So you do go back a ways.
Yes.
But then you've also been professionally involved with the 4-H program.
Well, I have. When we moved to Carroll County, of course, I started as a volunteer. But then a little later, I applied to the University of Maryland and got a position of extension agent here in Carroll County, and got 25 or so years of working there. And that's probably where you and I first met.
And that is where you had to deal with rugrats like me, yes.
Yes. Well, I don't know about that part, but the tremendous satisfaction that you get from seeing those young people develop.
Yes.
That's what made me keep going. Mm-hmm. Because I wanted to see that happen, Sam.
And isn't that the thing? It's like, you and I, we love the things that we love. You love horses. My kids are in swine. I love model rockets. But at the end of the day, it's about watching young people develop and become the people, that they're kind of built to be. And you get to watch that, especially in 4-H over the course of 10 years and then into volunteer. 4-H keeps teaching me stuff all the time. Even doing this, I'm like, goodness gracious, I'm about to learn a new skill. Guess I'm going to have to figure that out. So that really is the beauty of this program, is watching young people develop.
Yes.
You've had a front row seat to that in a lot of different capacities.
It doesn't really make any difference what that project is. The project is really tool or bait that brings that child in. Whether it is, and I, at one point in my 4-H career, I showed some pigs, but we want them to be, and they learn the same life skills, regardless of what the project is.
Exactly.
And the project is what gets them there.
Yeah. And so you have been able to see generations kind of come through the program. And so what is it about the fair that speaks to the generations? Because you're still hanging out there, I'm still hanging out there, and nobody thinks that's weird. Like, everybody's like, no, of course we'd all show up to the fair and enjoy the atmosphere of the fair. And so what is it about the fair that brings generations together?
Oh, well, for one thing, Carroll County, more than most counties, has a wonderful reputation of people helping people, volunteering to help people. And I mean, that goes beyond, of course, 4-H and FFA.
Of course.
But I think that's a large part of it. Whereas we go to, I probably shouldn't say, a more urban county, that is not there.
Yeah.
That is not there.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the wonderful parts about Carroll County. And, of course, it's one of the reasons you and I are still doing this thing, Sam.
We're still hanging out.
And because we love it.
We do.
And if we didn't, we wouldn't do it.
That's true. Yeah, I don't need more things in my summer schedule, that's for sure. But I tell you what, the first 3 things that go on my calendar every year are Christmas, Easter, and the fair. Everything else falls in after that. And that's not just because I have kids. I remember before we had kids, we're like, nope. Jenny, we got to be at the fair this week, contributing as we can.
Yes.
And so what makes it, but there is that spirit, and there's a wonderful kind of tradition of volunteering. And one of the things that I love about watching kids age out of the program is how quickly they want to turn around and they jump right into being a volunteer and trying to find some way to contribute in that way. So what is it that makes the fair so special, so friendly to volunteers? There must be something about it and what it means for young people that we understand that this program matters, and therefore giving back will actually make a difference.
Well, I think we have to go back a long, long time, Sam, to start that idea, because and then we come along with this idea of you can do something to help people, and all of a sudden, the knowledge that you gained in 4-H, now you're giving to the next generation down the line, who will give it to the next generation down the line, and the next, and the next, and what have you. At least, and I think that here in Carroll County, I think that will continue for quite some time. I can't say that about every place.
No, but that circle has not yet gone broken. All right, it remains unbroken in so many ways. So you volunteer in a lot of different areas, and you've carried a lot of different projects, and you've coached up kids in a lot of different areas. But for my money and in my experience, Mr. Bob always goes at the horse ring, and if I may, always walk, please, walk your horses. That is part of the soundtrack of my childhood. In a lot of ways, it's still the soundtrack of my adulthood. And so that's always one of the places where I see you volunteering, and I know that horses have always been a great passion for you. And so your experience with horses, like how did you end up there? You said your father was a breeder, of course, but you remained in that area, and you still contribute both at county and at state fair equine programs.
And of course, my children were in the horse project as well as many other projects. And there's working with any animal, but is almost the same as working with horses. But you're learning that what you can do with an animal, and in this case, a large animal, and how you can communicate with them despite the fact that you're smaller. Hopefully you're smarter, but I'm not always sure. I'm not always sure about that one, Sam. but I mean, I think that's got a lot to do with it, and some of the same thing would follow through with the other large animal projects. But a horse project you keep for a much longer period of time. Of course, market animals is a one-year project. Dairy, which unfortunately is not quite as large as it used to be here in Carroll County. 4-Hers showed some of those animals as calves, heifers, and cows.
Sure.
So they showed them for a number of years. And a few, there's not a whole lot of breeding sheep and beef cattle shown compared to the market animals.
Sure.
But it's the same thing. You get an animal and you start thinking, now, how can I make the offspring of this animal better than what it is?
Yes.
And that's one of those things that you learn, and it is a life skill.
It absolutely is.
It is a life skill, and I think that happens a great deal. And I think it probably through beef, dairy, sheep, and swine more so than horses, because most of those kids are not breeding their horses.
Yeah. You know, and I think about coming through the program. I grew up on a dairy farm. I understood how to be around animals. I wasn't a particularly great showman, which always kind of bothered me. My sister was way better than I was. But when my children started, they decided they wanted to do hogs. And I'm told that I did a swine project. I have no memory of this. I really must not have been good, and I really must not have had good animals, because I never remember being in the ring as a swine showman. But I remember that, like, okay, I'm not ready to take on a full swine operation, but I'm willing to start with 2 hogs.
Yeah.
Can we start with 2? And it was the volunteers around me who were coaching us up, who were teaching me, okay, here's how to feed it, here's what to look for. You know, when I'm getting super nervous, why are all these bumps on the back of our pig? Oh, well, they've got some mites. Here's how you treat it. You know, no big deal. You know, just the basic veterinary processes that go into that. All of a sudden, it was volunteers who weren't just coaching my son. They were great around my son, but also coaching me up as a parent. Here's how this project goes. To the point where slowly and surely I started to learn some things, my children started to learn some things, and I started to hand this project off to the kids, where we could start getting into breeding, where the investment of, you know, having them over the winter and the extra feed that goes in and the infrastructure and a barn that you need. But it really was volunteers who kept that going. And that is, I think, what you're talking about, this transfer of knowledge down, whether it's through a family or just in a project area. That's the exchange that happens.
That's exactly the way it works, of course, Sam. And it is it's the lifeblood of the fair, of the 4-H projects. And again, we're talking about animals, and animals are the most exciting part of the fair.
When you come to the fair, it's
the most
a big
exciting
deal.
part. But every other project that those young people engage in teaches the same things.
Yeah, I see the same thing in gardening projects. I see it in rocketry projects. I see it in crafts and craft projects. So, yeah, it doesn't have to be a year-long, highly expensive project for these kids to have an experience of engaging with people older than them, more knowledgeable than them, and growing in their skill set. So you've said a lot that the project is kind of the bait, or it's an opportunity. You got to put some bones, you got to put some flesh on this in order for the kids to learn these life skills. But you've always been an advocate that it's not just the animal, or not just the rocket, or not just the garden that changes a kid's life, that there are other ways that we learn life skills around these projects. And you have two that are particularly near and dear to your heart. And I'd love for you to talk about them a little bit. You mentioned public speaking and judging. And so what are those, and how do they contribute to a 4-H'er's experience?
Well, Sam, public speaking is a skill that many people are afraid of.
Everybody terrified.
Yeah, well, I mean, not quite everybody, but...
Well, know the old joke. People are more afraid of public speaking than they are of dying.
Yes,
which means
I don't know whether it's a joke, but I'm very familiar
It might
with
actually be true.
But if we can get every 4-H'er involved in public speaking, and it can be giving a demonstration, it doesn't have to be standing up and just speaking, they gain so much from it that they will use the rest of their lives. Now, the judging program, and of course we judge there are lots of different judging programs in 4-H in Carroll County, but what do they learn? Do they learn what the best pig looks like? Well, yeah, they learn that. But they learn to compare items, pigs, to an ideal.
Yeah.
Then they learn to rank those items based on their observations. And the third thing they have to do is give reasons why they made those decisions. And of course, I'm still involved with the horse judging program in the county, but I tell those parents, the kids don't care, but I tell those parents.
You're right about that. Yeah, kids don't care.
I'll tell those parents, if this kid never sees another horse the rest of its life, how many of those life skills will it use and how often?
Yeah.
And boy, all the time, probably almost daily.
Every one of them.
Yes. And so, those are the things. But let's go back to the idea. The project, whether it's a horse, a craft, or a vegetable, is the bait, the lure that gets that child there, and then you add these other things.
I remember, and I want to honor the memory of a volunteer that you and I both worked with for a long time. I was a part of horticulture judging, and very few folks know that horticulture judging, because it doesn't show up at the fair. We do it at a different time. But horticulture judging, identifying plants, identifying diseases, identifying seeds, it was an encyclopedia of knowledge that I had to get in my head, and I wasn't particularly good at that either. The more I say this, the more I feel like I wasn't a particularly accomplished 4-H'er. But I remember spending a lot of time with Miss Catherine Frock, and you remember Miss Frock.
Oh, Ms. Frock.
And she had a passion for that, and she knew it all.
Oh, yes.
She knew it all. Yes. And she was, and now you'll forgive me for saying it, but Mrs. Frock felt very old to me when I was a little kid, as most people do. But
she probably wasn't terribly young at that point.
She had been. I'm trying to remember the last time we honored her, how long she had been a volunteer. Had she gotten to 70 years?
Probably. I don't.
At least,
I can't tell
imagine.
You, but I think so, because I think she went to National Club Congress when she was maybe 18, and I'm not sure, but I think she won a fashion show or something to do with clothing at the national level. But then from then on, she was a volunteer.
Yeah. And so she did it forever.
Yes.
And I remember her sitting us down, and I was learning to identify things, but I'll never forget the first time she set 4 plates of tomatoes in front of us and said, "Judge them." And she coached us, say, here's what you're kind of looking for.
Mm-hmm.
You want uniformity between those. You're looking for diseases. You want to make sure they're ripe, all these sorts of things. Mr. Bob, I still don't even like eating tomatoes, let alone judging them. But exactly what you said, that idea of comparing it to an ideal, trying to figure out, and we're thinking about this on a grocery store shelf. You walk into a grocery store, what's a good tomato? What isn't a good tomato? That's a skill you use just about every day. And with the kids in my house, it is every day because we're at the grocery store all the time. But it was those things, and that connected this little farm kid who didn't know much about gardens with a volunteer who had been doing this forever. And who knows how many lives she taught, not just tomatoes, but those life skills that go on for a lifetime.
Yes, and again, the many, many years that she was a volunteer, she had to touch thousands of lives.
Absolutely. And that is the real power of volunteering, is the amount of impact that you can make. And so, Mr. Bob, that's been your story. I'm hoping that's my story. I'm still young in this. My kids are getting close to out, so maybe I take a deep breath and then dive back in. We shall see. But yeah, the people that you meet, the impact, and the whatever passion is that you have, getting to pass that on, that really is the connective tissue of the fair. And it's hard to illustrate that, but that is underneath of everything that happens there.
And that is so true. And here we're talking about these wonderful things, and the average person who comes out to the fair and isn't going to see those things, may not feel them. You and I are going to feel them.
Yeah.
And we're going to see them, and we're going to say, I remember when Johnny first started, he wasn't, but look how he's improved.
All of a sudden,
yes.
Johnny knows what he's doing.
Yes, I mean, and there's been any number of those young kids that I've worked with over the years, and with lots of other volunteers, and we can say, didn't we make a real difference in that one?
100%.
And we did.
Yeah. No, we absolutely have. And that is where, for folks listening to this, if you go to the fair, take a couple minutes and grab a kid and just ask them about their experience, because there is a story there. Now, our kids are developing. If the kid's not quite ready, doesn't quite know how to share that, ask somebody else. But there are stories there that will change your understanding of what kind of happens. Yes, make sure you go to the fair, see the horse pull, get yourself an ice cream, buy yourself a raffle ticket, do all the things that you do at the fair. But take a moment and talk to some of the kids and some of the volunteers. The stories that'll be unearthed will help you understand why the fair matters so much, not just the people who are involved, but have mattered to Carroll County for so many, many years. Yes. And so, Mr. Bob, I want to thank you for spending some time here. It really has been a treat. And in fact, and just talking about volunteering with you and the impact that you've made on my life and my family's life, it really has been a treat. But I want to give you a chance to have the last word. And so there's not many corners of the fair that you don't know well. And so your recommendation may be a little higher than others. What is one thing folks should absolutely not miss at the fair this year?
One thing. Yeah,
and I know one thing is a wild question.
But I think the satisfaction that those 4-H'ers feel. And I don't know, I mean, I know that I can see it. I know that you can see it, Sam. Now, whether someone, their first time at the fair, can see it, I don't know. If they're thinking in the right directions, they'll see it.
Yeah.
The fair is such a wonderful event.
It is.
And it is a chance where all these 4-H'ers get to show off what they've done and what skills they have learned. and how they have been able to put this stuff together. And of course, the real answer is they become better people.
Amen to that. Absolutely. And that's sort of the challenge I want to lay down to our listeners is, when you go, we hope you have the best time, all right? It's the middle of summer, go do all the summer type things, but spend a minute, just watch the kids' faces, all right? The kids that do well and the kids that, maybe don't do as well as they want. They're having these real life experiences that'll stay with them for a lifetime and teach them a great many lessons. So that's our challenge to our listeners, and they've got it from the very best of authorities, and so I'm very grateful for that. Mr. Bob, it's been an absolute joy to share this conversation with you. Thanks so much, and I look forward to seeing you at another fair this year.
Well, I will be there, and I'm sure you and your whole family will be there, and I'm looking forward to it.
Be sure to tune in to cable channel HD 1072 and channel 19 for live streaming coverage of the fair. You can also see it live on YouTube or on our website at carrollmediacenter.org.